All right, so you should have your design in your Rhombus cutter file. And if you've used the Rhombus cutter, the whole thing, then you're more like asymmetrical design, which is fine. This mirroring is not really going to be applicable for those designs. But if you use one of the triangular cutting shapes, you're going to need to mirror it to get the full rhombus. And so I'm going to show you how to do that here. And so right now my screen looks a little bit different because what I've done is I separated my layers palette over here just so you can see all of the layers that are going into the design. And there's a couple things I also want to show you that I want to sort of lengthen this out so it's a little bit longer. It still doesn't cut down on my viewing of my workspace, so you can separate these tabs easily just by clicking and dragging them over here and then expanding them by going to the edge here. And so I've done that here. And one of the things helpful tools when setting up your systems is I create little swatches here that I can sample at at will. And if you remember from when we did the duotone image video that I had the swatches here, and if I hold the cursor over these, it'll sort of tell me what they are, right? So the RGB red, again, red from the color wheel or something. Or if I wanted to use the green, MYK green, I could use that, and you can see it's over here. And so if I want to go through and sort of find a specific color, and I don't want to do it on the color picker over here by clicking on the foreground color, I could easily do that with the swatches here and find the name for them. And so what I've done here is I've just made went above my equilateral triangle cutting shape. I made a new layer down here. There it is. Gone to my marquee tool, square. I just made a little square, and it's on this separate layer. And let's say I want to choose red. This is I don't want that one. Where's the other one I want? There it is. CMYK red. It's changed my foreground color. File, fill. And so now I can rename this layer red, select, deselect, get rid of the marching ants, and now I have a layer that is turn it on and off. It's the red, and so that I can always have access to it. I don't have to come back over here and click it. I easily could, but the other thing about benefit of doing this here is that now I can come over here and I can get a value, tint and shade of that red if I wanted so. I wanted to use that. So just little tips on using that. Now let's get to the actual getting this image and flattening it and mirroring it, right? Because we make that full rhombus shape. So let's discuss this. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to make sure everything I want on is on, everything off is I want off is turned off, right? And so you can see that I've gone ahead and just turned off all these other cutters that I don't need. Like if this one could be turned on, I wouldn't even know. So I'm just going to turn this off. I'm just going to scroll through here, and the background's on. It's fine, it's not changing anything. Um, but what I'm going to do is I've got everything grouped into a folder. You may or may not have that, okay? If you have everything like this, and it's just everything's sort of visible, here's a copy that's not even being used. I could just delete that. There's no purpose to that. But now I have all this layer creating this image. And so what I want to do is I'm just going to select this one, and I'm going to go to the top layer. Usually they're all just stacked together. I'm going to hold the shift key here, and I am going to flatten this. All right. Now, before I flatten this, I don't really want to do this to this file. I always want to keep an unflattened version. What happens if I flatten it? And then I mirror it and make it into the rhombus, but then I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, I need to change something. Well, if you flattened it and you saved it, then you can't go back, right? Especially if you've saved it and closed the file down. These individual layers that I've highlighted here are gone. So before I flatten this, what I'm going to do is go to my history, make a copy. Again, it's that dog-eared piece of paper with a plus sign. Make a copy here. When I click here, now I can see here's the duplicate one. There's all my layers. All right, it's visible. I'm going to just highlight all those. And so I'm going to highlight these. And now what I'm going to do is layer, merge layers. And this will only merge the layers that I have selected. Right, if I do merge visible, it'll do that black cookie cutter one, right? The equilateral triangle shape in the background. I don't want to do that. I just want to do the ones that are selected. So that's merge layer. Now you see I have a flat one here. So now what I'll do is I'll just, I've already named this one here, done the same thing here, and I've named it, expand that. It's a symmetrical design split complement, right? And so now, I'll go ahead and put that there. And so now I have just this. I can't move the individual layers, unlike when I'm on this one, I can still turn off individual layers. And I want to have this original one. I don't want this one to be flattened. I want to keep those intact, the individual layers. So I'm going to come back to this flattened one. And this is where we start making the rhombus of each system. And the easiest way to do this is I'm going to go ahead and put this layer back over here because I'm going to need a little more space for this part. Now I need to go to my Moodle site and download the Rhombus system print template. It opens up and this is what it looks like. This is where you're going to want to create your rhombus, right? So you're going to go from this flattened version you have here, you're going to pull it over here. Now the template has the rhombus already aligned, they're spaced out, they have the text files here that I can use to rename this. And so this is a split complement system. So I'm going to go to this first one. Let's see, that's the last one. There, this one. So I'm going to select this one. And the first thing to do is I'm just going to go ahead and name it. I'm going to have it highlighted, T for the text tool. Come over here to where it's this. Double click on it, it highlights it, and I'm just going to put split complement. So I know that's where it's going to go. And at that point, I'm ready to, just going to put this right here, just make a little bit smaller window. So I only need to see this triangle, this rhombus shape. So here, now I need to go back to the move tool, come back to my flattened version one. All right, there's my layers. There's the flattened version. And I want to make sure that you can see the whatever triangle you used. You need to have access to this at this point. So first thing I'm going to do is highlight the triangle. I'm using that equilateral triangle to create my rhombus. I need to highlight that layer because I need to get this shape, that triangle shape. I want to get it exactly as it is here on that layer. So to do that, I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to use the magic wand tool. I can use this magic wand tool. I can lower the tolerance down to 2, and I'm going to make sure that sample all layers is turned off. Otherwise, it's going to start accessing other layers. I want only the layer that it's highlighted to use. And I'm going to click in that triangle. When I do that, I get the perfectly triangle marching ants of that shape. So that's what I want to do right now. Next, I'm going to go to my move tool because I want to move this. and I just want that shape. Now, if I turn this triangular cookie shutter out, you can see all the background sort of hidden information. It's not really being used, right? So all this stuff, I need to extract this without getting all this extra stuff. I don't need this to make this shape over here. So I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to select the flat version, right? It's all those layers, all those compressed, all those different colored layers compressed into one. I'm going to use this. Now that this is highlighted, again, marching ants dictate what you work in. If there's marching ants there, you're only working on the interior space. You know what's been selected by moving the cursor of the move tool in and out across that marching ant barrier. You see that it goes to scissors, and that tells you that's what's being used or selected. And so now I can click and drag over to this one. I can hold the shift key so it's centered perfectly. And here it is over here. I'm gonna move it on top so that it's above these grayed out rhombus shapes. And now I can make this a little bit bigger just so it's easier to see. And so now, once it's here, I'm going to drag this and I want to line this up here. But to get it lined up, and I can get it lined up so it snaps to here, so I'm going to go to View, Snap to, and Layer. And it should line up perfectly right to the edge of content on other layers. So if I turn that off, it hides that part perfectly. When you upload these, or if you were to print these, you'd eventually just turn this gray layer off because they're there. I only included them there to help you line things up. So I'm gonna go ahead and just turn that off for now because I have my split complements labeled, lines up. I just not need to mirror this so that I can have the full rhombus shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take layer 5 here. I'm just going to click, drag it down to that dog-eared piece of paper at the bottom of my layers palette. Make a copy. Now that I have 2 layers, all right, I'm going to take that copy layer. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Mirror Vertical. Here it is. And I'm going to just drag it down. Should line up perfectly. It looks like I have a white line, and that could just be at the viewing percentage I'm looking at. But to verify this, I always will go in and I'll just zoom in. I can zoom in just a little corner here, just so I can see that there's no white line. Another thing I can do is to verify, go back to the move tool, and instead of like clicking on the layer and moving it, I can use my arrow keys. And if I just use my arrow key down one, it's called a nudge. You see it here, where it just says nudge, the action. And I can use those arrow keys just to move this a little bit, right? And essentially we'll move it 1 pixel. And so I could see just by moving it once that it was exactly lined up edge to edge. And if I go back here, now I have my first one done, ready to move in my other 2 rhombi shapes, and then scale it down to post for the forum. Again, there's that line showed up. And again, it's just a viewing. If I zoom in a little bit, it goes away. And so that's all that is that it's just something to do with the refresh rate of the screen and the pixels. It looks like there's a line there, but there really isn't. You zoomed in just to verify. Look forward to seeing all your Rhombus systems.